Hi, I'm Tom Billington, founder of Billington Cybersecurity, and welcome to Federal CyberBytes, sponsored by Cisco. We'll give you concise interviews by top thought leaders from government and industry to address the growing threat landscape. This week, Chris Cleary, the Principal Cyber Advisor for the Department of the Navy, and Will Ash, Senior Director of U.S. Public Sector Security at Cisco, talk about the mobilization of the Navy to telework during the pandemic and why implementing Zero Trust is vitally important. Thanks to each of you for your part in the cybersecurity mission. Now let's hear from our experts. How important, Chris, is Zero Trust becoming during the Navy's massive mobilization to telework?
It really was a monumental effort what the whole Department of Defense did, not just the Navy, moving the majority of their workforce to a telework environment. And as that telework environment really pertained to Zero Trust, we learned a lot of lessons. It actually really drove our Zero Trust strategy a lot faster than we even anticipated internal to the Navy. I really tip my hat to the guys over at Fleet Cyber and 10th Fleet that had the lead for really designing the Zero Trust environment that we ultimately are beginning to adopt through a plan order that was directed through U.S. Cybercom. And I think what we found is we're creating an environment that we have a renewed level of assurance on that is the secure environment that we need to be able to allow people to telework in the future. And it's hard to anticipate things like COVID coming down, but if COVID extends or if we find ourselves having to do this again, I think we're ready.
What are some of the lessons learned for government officials who want to roll out Zero Trust at scale?
I think the quick way I would say that is trust the process and put some faith in the communities that are providing some of these services or these capabilities. As we go through this, there was a big effort, or let me say we had to accept some risk in creating the original environment. And what we found is through accepting that risk, it allowed us to learn things as we went through the process. So, maybe that would be my advice to people in industry is acknowledging that they're transitioning to the Zero Trust environment, or the way that the Department of Defense has really, has begun to adopt the CVR environment, or even the comfortness with teleworking in general. There's a little bit of risk that's going to have to be accepted, and there's going to be some uncomfortable days as you transition into these environments. But what we found is that with accepting that risk, with transitioning these environments, with allowing your workforce to learn how to use these tools, we're really creating a more secure way of doing business and able to provide a secure work environment to our people teleworking. So I'd just say trust the process.
And Chris, how do you balance the acceptance of some level of risk with the need for productivity?
I mean, that's exactly what we had to do. Productivity, was at the end of the day, we had to get our workforce working again. And there were lots of things that we accepted as sort of the new norm in the interim. People using personally owned devices, people taking government equipment out of the buildings and hooking personally owned peripherals into them or whether it was a camera or a microphone or a headset. Using, when I'm in the CVR environment, I use my home computer. So we knew that people were going to be pushing information back on devices that we couldn't monitor or trust. But we had to accept, that our people were going to do the right things and that the environment was secure enough to facilitate work. And that's what happened. And we've actually found a really high adoption and a desire to maintain this environment as opposed to just flood everybody back into buildings and go back to business as normal. I think we're looking at the new normal. And I really think this is going to change the way that we work as a Department of Defense and the Department of the Navy. Some of this is going to endure. We will continue to have people teleworking. Probably will be encouraging it at a higher level for lots of reasons. But it's all predicated on the fact that we accepted risk and we ultimately could transition to an environment that was secure to enable work and collaboration and the sharing of documents and emails and phone calls, teleconferencing. And all that has been successful. So we're very happy with it.
Will, from the perspective of Cisco, Why is Zero Trust so important for the government, and how is it being implemented by your clients?
Tom, as you just described, and as Chris described before, we know that there is a massive shift in the IT landscape because users, devices, and the cloud itself is moving outside of the traditional network as we know it. And with that, there are different types of users. In Chris's Department of the Navy example, of course, using different types of devices, many times their own. And applications, servers, containers, different workloads are also communicating with themselves. A good example of that is the CVR example that Chris referenced multiple times. And on top of all that, we have IoT devices that are providing another entry point of access to the network. So this move outside the traditional network has made the comments you made critically important around new mission challenges have emerged. There are different points of access, there's a larger attack surface, and there's increasingly more gaps in visibility to all the different points in the network. So that's really why Zero Trust is critically important in our new environment.
What are the key challenges the government faces, and how is Cisco planning on addressing them?
A whole set of questions arise because of this, the lack of the visibility in these different connections and applications, networks, users, devices, and ultimately at the core of it, the main question is, can we trust these connections? Here are just a couple examples that I imagine many are asking. Are the users really who we think they are? And as they connect applications and data, are the devices they're using healthy? Do they have good cyber hygiene? For example, is the software up to date? Do they have security features enabled, like encryption or biometric capabilities? To the visibility point, what's connected across the entire network? What kinds of devices? Should they be talking to each other? And then the other one is, what kind of data is in the cloud apps or the cloud infrastructure itself? Is this data critical? What level of criticality or sensitivity is it? And who and what accesses it? To the second point of your question, the way Cisco is addressing this and helping our customers and government and the private sector as well is taking models, for example, the draft DISA Zero Trust model that has 7 pillars: user, device, infrastructure, application and workload data, and of course the visibility analytics and automation orchestration piece. We have we pare that down into a manageable set where we look at the workforce, the workplace, and the workload, and that's supported by a platform of common functions across those. So ultimately, we're trying to secure those 3 Ws: secure the workforce, secure the workplace, and secure the workload.